Okay, I'm here today with Julie from Divine Light Healing. Julie is a Theta Healing practitioner. So today we're going to talk a bit about Theta Healing, what it is, how a session works, and what Julie does within her work. So hi, thank you for joining me today.
You're welcome. I have a very busy schedule right now with so many things to do. But
so, just to give a little bit of background, I met Julie quite a while ago when we were both in a shared group, and we were talking about anxiety and different ways we could alleviate stress and reduce feelings of anxiety. And Julie shared a really beautiful meditation, a Theta Healing meditation, and so we've been talking back and forth since then. I've also had a couple of sessions with Julie as well, which were wonderful. So that's why I really wanted to share what you do. So tell us a little bit more about Theta Healing. What is Theta Healing, and how did you come into this journey?
So how I came into Theta Healing? Well, I like a lot of people, I suffered a lot of mental health issues for a while. I had severe depression and anxiety. At one point, I ended up in a homeless shelter. I don't recommend that to anyone unless you're really diving deep into what you're learning. And after a while, things started to become clearer, and I got to a point where I was no longer depressed and I was no longer anxious, but I was also no longer really living. And then I got to a point where I decided that I sort of wanted more out of life than that. And I started meditating and journaling and doing all the things a lot of people have been told to do. And it didn't really make that much difference. Like, I would feel good as soon as I'd meditated, but then very quickly my day would sort of go, all over again. And then I was just sitting at home one day, hanging out on Facebook, as you do. And this thing popped up saying, would you be interested in this event? And it was called a sound bath and Theta Healing meditation. And I thought, yes, I would be interested in that event. And it was literally a 10-minute walk from my house, and it was on that evening. So I thought I'd go along and check it out. And it was a Bourgeon event run by Anna Kitney. If you're in London, I highly recommend you go check them out because they are amazing. And she does run them regularly when we're allowed to go out and meet people. And so I went along having no idea what to expect. I was still quite skeptical of anything holistic or what you might call New Age. I'd been raised atheist and was very committed to that. So I went in and we all sat down on chairs, and this wonderful lady started playing the Tibetan bowls, as you do, and the gong, and we had this blissful hour-long sound bath, which was amazing. I don't need to tell you. And I thought, sitting there thinking, yeah, this is great, not realizing that the Theta hadn't started. And then Anna came along and she explained a bit about how Theta works, and how in Theta, it's an energy healing that we do in a deep state of meditation. So it's called Theta because we use a meditation that gets you into the Theta brainwave state, which is the deeper state of relaxation. It helps you get out of your head. It helps you shut out your ego. It helps you shut out the monkey chatter, so you're completely in your heart. And then the practitioner connects to divine source, God, universal power, whatever you prefer to call that. And then you channel healing. So what that means would be I would connect to your energy, and then I'm able to see what your challenge is, where that came from, how it's been serving you up until that time, so we can release it. So Anna was explaining this, and I thought, okay, this sounds interesting. Not at all convinced, but it sounds interesting. And I was sort of letting it wash over me until at one point she said, I'm going to clear some trauma because I feel like a lot of you here in past lives, and at this point I'm rolling my eyes going, like past lives. I feel like a lot of you may have been tortured or imprisoned or beheaded, or she went through this list. And all of a sudden, I knew what she was talking about was real. I felt it. And it was in that moment, it was almost like I could see a video of highlights of every death I'd experienced. And none of them had been natural. And I did feel this, like, the real sense of fear wash over me, like I was remembering the fear I'd felt in each of those situations. And then as she went through the meditation, all of that lifted and I felt lighter and different. And as the session finished, I thought, this might work. There might be something to this. I might want to find out more. And I waited to speak to her, and she said, I'd advise you to go and speak to this man over here. And she pointed to this guy who had his back to me. And in my most skeptical part, I was like, no, I'm still not sure. I want a really clear sign that this is something from, the above or the divine or whatever. And as I looked at this man who had his back to me, there were angel wings on his t-shirt. And I thought, okay, the signs go. The funniest thing is, I know Satvinder quite well. He swears he's never owned a t-shirt with angel wings on.
Wow.
And he had no idea what was on the back of that t-shirt, but with my eyes, I was convinced it was angel wings. So I spoke to him. He said he could help me. I arranged to have a few sessions with him. He was able to show me very quickly where a lot of my challenges came from. A lot of the reason I had been sort of, I guess, hiding myself from the world, staying in depression and anxiety, was because it was a safe place to hide away and not be seen. So we hold on to a lot of beliefs that it's not safe for us to be seen to do this. So we find ways to hide. And that started to lift and things started changing. And then I think we were only maybe a few sessions in. And he said to me, you could do this. I was like, no, I couldn't. Don't be silly. He said, but you're very intuitive. I was like, no, I'm really not. He said, you're an empath. I went, no, I'm totally, I don't know what that is. What is that? And it was when he explained what an empath was, and it was like this huge epiphany that, because I thought that was just one of your senses. I didn't know that was different. So when he said that, that really shifted something. So that, okay, maybe there are things that I need to know more about and need to understand. And then he said, I think you'd be really good at this. You should train to become a healer. And I thought, yeah, right, that will happen. And then I think literally days later, I got a phone call from his wife he's told me about you. I think you should do the training. A friend of mine's coming to London this weekend. She's teaching. And that's very quickly how I became a Theta Healer. It's ongoing work. It doesn't clear in a session, but it has completely transformed my life. And to me, the fact that I get to help other people change things and watch that magic happen, that shift in a session, never gets old. Every session is different. So quite often in a session, people say to me, oh, that's amazing. How did you know that? And I think, I have no idea. But, Creator gives me the information I need. It's never wrong. Sometimes it may not be what you're expecting. We often find what we think is the issue is never the issue. So, for example, you might come to me and say, oh, I'd love to be really creative, but whenever I try, it always goes wrong. I sabotage my work. Why can't I be an artist? And the first thing that might come up was, how was your relationship with your mother? And you'll be thinking, that's not what I asked. I asked why I can't be creative. But it might be something as simple that when you were a child, every time you started drawing, you were asked, had you done your chores first? Had you done your homework first? And you were taught that other things were more important. So you might not see where the link is, but, I say Creator always knows where that's coming from, how it served you and why it needs to be changed.
And how does that work with your, so you tap into source, and I mean, just to give people an idea, how does that work in a session? Because obviously you're tapping into source, and I know from my experience with you that yes, I think what you just said, maybe what you ask and what comes out is maybe not what you expected, but at the same time it was still really relevant. But how does that connection occur?
Good question. Never sure how to answer it. So I take my client and myself through the meditation, so we're both in that theta state. That allows me to basically just receive the energy from Creator. So I just know what the point is or what the problem is and how to change it. It varies from client to client. At some point, I might see it really clearly as if I'm watching your life on a video. At other times, I might literally see an age flash up, and I'll know that something happened when you were that age that triggered this belief or this pattern that needs to be changed. Sometimes I will just see different colors in your body, but every healer you ask will see it differently and explain it differently. We all have to, and I think Creator shows us in ways we understand.
How do you manage to relate that to the person that's in front of you, or are they very kind of clear messages that you get?
They're usually very clear, and if I get stuck, because I have to, I don't do the work, it just comes through me. I'm not God, I don't have magical powers, I'm able to channel things through me. So I have complete and utter trust in Creator. So there are times they'll show me things, and in my head, I'm literally saying to Creator, I have no idea what that means, tell me. And sometimes I'll get told to ask something, I'll think, no, that can't be right. And think, I know that's just my ego, because, I make a lot of mistakes, but Creator doesn't. So it's all about how much faith and trust you have in the divine that you're working with.
Yeah, and I know that from experience that they're very powerful sessions, and they can lead to some quite aha moments where you realize the domino effect that one circumstance or something that happened to you has had an effect on your life. So yeah, I think they're really powerful healing sessions. And I know that you also use some kinesiology as well. I don't know if you use it in your sessions, but I know that you help people with also acquiring tools for themselves to help themselves listen to themselves, maybe.
Yes. So one of the things we use in Theta, which is a kinesiology tool, so we use it for muscle testing. So you can do this very simply yourself, and all you need to do is, if you were to stand up with your feet hip width apart, your knees slightly bent, your arms down by your side, and you close your eyes. And then to start with, we always start with just saying yes, yes, yes. And you'll notice your body will tilt forward slightly. And the same with no, 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 and your body will tip backwards. And that's when you know that you're getting answers from your soul. So then you can ask simple things. We make them as statements, not as questions. So, basic things for test would be, I love myself, I hate myself. You will often get both. And you will get things like, it's safe for me to attract clients. It's safe for me to be visible, for example. Or, I'm worthy and deserving of receiving love. These are questions that you can ask, and you will get a backwards or forwards that you can work on.
Yes, so as well as doing your Theta Healing sessions, I know you do remote sessions, and you have a Facebook group where you share a lot of beautiful...
all my sessions remotely. I think I've only ever done about 3 sessions in person.
Okay. And I know also you have a Facebook group.
My group is called A Place for Healing.
And I know that in there you share a lot of really valuable information and healing tools, and you've got a really beautiful community of people with who you share. So maybe tell us a little bit about the kind of things that you're sharing in your group.
Okay. So A Place for Healing was set up just so women who were interested in learning more about spiritual empowerment, who were interested in energy healing, could come in and get that information. It's a very safe space. It's, there is without judgment. There are no stupid questions. Anything that you want to ask can be asked. If you want to share things, you're welcome to share that. I focus on Theta because it's what I do, but there are so many different modalities out there. I'm open to all of them. I had a lot of practitioners of other modalities in my group. I quite often ask people to come in and do guest spots. So I know a while ago you kindly came and did sound healing for us.
Yes,
another friend of mine came in and did a tarot reading recently. Someone else dropped in and invited people to work with her. She does soul regression, where you work with your Akashic records and find out what you're here to learn, what your soul purpose is. And I also work a lot with access tools. I need to tell you, I've done no formal training. What I've done with access is just things I've learned and things I've read. And I think if you're not used to working with something like the divine and it feels a bit out there for you, I think access consciousness can be more accessible, because with access we focus on open-ended questions. So I think, you know, we're so much taught to be in our heads. If you think if something happens when you're a child, you're told, well, go away and think about what you've done. Go away and think about what you could have done better. And we're all working with all the information that we have in our heads at any one point. And it's really not how we solve problems. You just tend to come up with more problems and get more stressed. So the point with access is that it's questions that you ask from your soul and your heart, that you ask open-ended. So the idea is you put the question out there, and then you trust that the universe will bring you solutions and answers. So one of the easiest things we'll ask is just, how does it get any better than this? You know, if you're having a tough time, so how does it get any better than this? And that's not for you to sit down and go, oh, well, I could do this, or I could try this, or I could ask for this. It's like, you're just asking the universe, help me, how can it get any better? Find me ways. And you'll find that things start to just fall into place.
And I guess it's about opening things up to the possibilities as well, rather than kind of closing ourselves down to those limiting beliefs and behaviors.
It's about being open to things and not being attached to how something's going to come to you. You know, and this is why we're manifesting. We always talk about being specific and at the same time being open-minded. You might think, you know, I really want some more money, because who doesn't want more money? It's fun to play with. But if you get attached to, but I have to get this job with this company, it contracts it and makes it very hard. But if you just put it out there that I really like some more money, you know, the universe has so many more options and solutions that we have.
I think what you mentioned in the beginning about, you know, when you first went to your Theta Healing session and that you were quite skeptical. And I know obviously the first thing to say to somebody is to just give it a try, because obviously if you don't try, you won't know how you feel about it. But what would you, because I know your background isn't from that kind of way, so what would you say to people about that connection?
I would, and literally no one was a more committed atheist than I was. I grew up being taught that, you know, anything connected to religion, I think it's important to understand the difference between religion and spirituality, but that might be another topic for another day.
And Theta Healing, when you're in that Theta state, it allows you to access, is that, would you say that's right? It allows you to access the part of your brain that can allow you that connection?
I think most important it does really is allows you to disconnect from your brain, to let go of thinking and just stay in your heart. And I think I shared a passage in a book once that I sent to you that I really love, because it was channeled from, you know, an angel or source, whatever you want to call it. At one point he says, what use are your brains? Stop using them now, throw them out. Because, you know, you think how much time you get caught up in worry and fear and panic, and, you know, when has that ever made anything better? Whereas worrying about anything ever made it easier for you? And how many times have you really worried about something and you've laid awake overnight, you know, thinking about and overanalyzing, and then you go and do that thing, whether it be a job interview or, you know, I don't know, going to a new place for the first time, and when it's done you think, oh, it really wasn't as bad. I wish I hadn't put myself through that.
Yeah, no, it's very true.
Your brain can conjure up all kinds of madness and fear if you let it.
So Theta Healing keeps you, or brings you to the heart space.
Yeah, the Theta meditation itself will bring you to the heart space. The healing will help you uncover why you have the beliefs you do and how they're not serving you, so you can free them from you.
So can anyone do Theta meditations by themselves?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, if you've never done it, it takes time to learn, but, you know, there are lots of guided meditations out there. There are lots on YouTube. You know, I have one that I'm happy to share the link for.
Yes, I know you do.
Business page, there probably is one there floating around somewhere.
I know that you do have some beautiful meditations to share. The first one that you shared with me, which I actually still use now, which is the Theta Healing meditation, which is really beautiful. And I know that once a month you offer a full moon meditation in your group.
That's always fun. Yeah, so I do them on the full moon and the new moon. On the new moon, as when we call in our desires, it's a good time for new beginnings. So we call in everything we want to manifest into our lives, and I take you through a very special theta process where we activate your Merkaba. I'll go into that another time, we'll be here for hours, which helps you call things in. And the full moon meditation, which tends to be much deeper, has a lot more healing come into it. Because the full moon is when you're releasing, you know, its cycle is ending, you're releasing. So that's when we come together as a group. I'll tune into the group energy and see what needs to be released, and release layers of fear, stress, overwhelm, drama, whatever it is that everyone's holding on to that needs to be released.
Yeah, and I know that these are really soothing, and obviously a beautiful time of the month to do them. And I know you've also got a course coming up, so maybe tell us a little bit about that.
I have, yes. So some of the things I feel sort of bad about, smiling and feeling excited about. I wish there wasn't a need for this. I wish no one ever needed this. But obviously, depending on when you're watching this at the moment, we're all in the grip of COVID-19. We're all in self-isolation or social distancing. And, you know, there's a lot of fear out there at the moment. And I know when I tune in collectively, I mean, there's just so much fear and misunderstanding and a sense of hopelessness. And when I tune into that, it goes deeper because, you know, we're dealing with old energies. We're dealing with ancestral stuff, you know, past life stuff, where a lot of us have been through these pandemics and these big situations before. So there's a lot of fear triggered. There's a lot of guilt, a lot of survivor's guilt that people are holding on to. So what I am launching is a 5-day process. It's very intensive. The reason why it's only for 5 days, because I want to take you through a process where you can release fear and resentment and guilt and shame and any of those things that just drag you down, that make life endlessly difficult. And, you know, if you're holding on to all of that, you're literally not making space in your life for joy and happiness. So I'm opening that up just for 5 days so we can just clear as much of that fear and resentment and guilt that we can do, and just release that, clear it out of your system. Try and clearing as much out as we can out of the collective, because, you know, the biggest problem I think we have at the moment is the level of fear and stress and that sense of helplessness that people are feeling because they don't really know what to do. So yeah, so that will be a combination of coaching and healing. So what I'll do is every morning I will set a journaling prompt to make sure you really pinpoint on something so you can bring up that fear or trauma or shock that needs to be cleared. I wouldn't necessarily advise you to do that on your own. So if you just bring all up and you're sat with it, it's too much to release. And then every evening I will come in and do a healing to make sure we release that, reset everything, and make sure everyone's really processing emotions, sitting with them, but releasing them, not holding on to them.
Yeah. I think that's really important. And something you mentioned earlier, which I can definitely vouch for, is that your group is definitely a really safe space for people to open up and share how they're feeling or how they felt after different meditations. So it's a beautiful space to experience this. And when does this intensive program start?
So it's due to start on the 22nd of May to coincide with the full moon. So we can really maximize that we're releasing.
Beautiful. Okay. So if people would like to join your intensive workshop, where do they need to go?
Initially, right now, I would say drop me an email at letsfindjoy@outlook.com. Hopefully by the time this goes out, I'm working on a Facebook group that will introduce people to this. So before they invest in it, before they decide it's right for them, I'm opening up a group where there'll just be a couple of tasks and a meditation video that anyone can join. So they can just go in there without any obligation and just see what's there, see how it feels for them, and see if it's something they think resonates. So as soon as I have it up and running, I'll give you the link for that to share as well.
Okay, lovely. And to access your full moon meditations, are they still available on your page?
Those are in a separate Facebook group, which I've very cunningly called Full Moon Healing Sessions.
Okay.
I'm a big believer in keeping it simple.
Yes.
And yes, if you get in touch, I will just send you a link to join those.
All right, lovely. So
live, you can always catch the replays whenever they are. If it's a week later or months afterwards, you'll still get the same healing.
Okay, and I know you've had some exciting things happen recently, because I know that you are going to be co-authoring a book. So that's fantastic news. Let's know a little bit more.
So at the moment, this may change. At the moment, the book is called Wild Women Rise. And it's a group of women who've overcome various struggles and difficulties in their life to go on to do things that inspire and help and motivate other women. So I was very excited to be included in that. I have just returned to my second edit, and you know me. I was so proud of myself because the word count was 2,500 words, and I wrote 2,499.
Woohoo!
And then I was asked to edit it, and I made the edit, so now it's 3,199. So if all goes to plan, I think that's due to be published on the 30th of June, because the lady who is at the head of this book, who's bringing it all together, it's the anniversary of her father's death. So that's she wants to bring it up to honour him on that date.
Okay, that's beautiful.
So yes, I will definitely keep you posted on that.
Yes, lovely. We'll look out for that. Maybe on your page you'll be sharing more information about it.
I will be singing it loudly.
Beautiful. So, okay, so if anyone wants to get in touch with you to find out more about Theta Healing, your intensive program, or the book that will be coming out, I will put all the links in the comments below.
Okay, the easiest way is just to find me in my Facebook profile, and you're always welcome to send a private message. I find with the private messaging on my business page, it can go a bit awry. Like
they disappear somewhere into the ether of Facebook. I know what you mean.
You quite often get a notification saying you have a message, and you're like, I do.
Where is it? Yes. Yeah, I know that feeling.
Letting me see it, you just wanted me to know it was there. And but yeah, it's definitely better to get me through my personal profile. So if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to get in touch. Yes.
So thank you so much for joining me today to talk about Theta Healing and the beautiful work that you do, because I do know it inspires lots of people and also helps lots of people through quite difficult times, and to gain some clarity in a new way. So I encourage everyone to have a little look at Julie's work and her page.
Yes, please do.
All right. Thank you so much for taking the time today, and thank you guys for joining, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you so much for having me. I'll catch you soon.
Thank you. Bye.